Picture this. You walk into the shops, you do the usual lap, and the one store that always felt like a guaranteed stop, EB, is either empty, boarded, or running that everything must go vibe. And if you're in New Zealand right now, that's not just a doom scroll fantasy. It's a real proposal on the table, because EB Games is proposing to shut down its entire New Zealand business and close all remaining NZ stores. Not a few locations, not a restructure, the whole thing. So yeah, the obvious question for Aussies is, are we next? Or is this an NZ only collapse? Let's talk about what's actually being reported, what the proposal says, and what it does and doesn't mean for Australia. RNZ reported they saw a letter sent to the employees saying EB Games is proposing to shut down its NZ business. The managing director, Shane Stockwell, says the proposal is not final and they'll go through a consultation process with staff before any decision is made. The proposal includes closing all remaining EB Games New Zealand stores, closing the New Zealand distribution centre, and if it goes ahead, all roles within EB Games NZ could be disestablished. Staff were asked to submit feedback on the proposal by January 12th. So when people say EB Games is shutting down, the accurate wording right now is EB Games is proposing to shut down NZ and consulting staff. That's still extremely serious, but it's important not to accidentally report it like it's already done and dusted. RNZ also reports Stockwell described the NZ business as no longer commercially viable and referenced a multi-million-dollar loss during the 2024 fiscal year. He also points to a sluggish retail market and says the company wasn't confident performance would improve, even after significant and repeated efforts to turn it around. And there's a detail that matters for context. RNZ notes that the Post previously reported EB posed eliminating all NZ administrative staff at the beginning of last year, so this doesn't sound like a random Tuesday decision. It sounds like a business that's been in triage mode for a while. Also, zoom out for a second. Physical game retail has been getting squeezed for years. Digital libraries, subscriptions, direct-to-console downloads. It's not a secret why specialty stores have had to evolve into games, collectibles, merch, trade-ins to survive. GameStop's own filings describe how important their trade-in ecosystem is to the model. Okay, but how big is EB and NZ versus Australia? This is where the numbers help. GameStop's latest annual reports, the SEC 10K, breaks out store counts like this: 336 stores in Australia and 38 in New Zealand, for 374 total in the Australian segment overall. And that same filing explains that for reporting purposes, GameStop's Australia segment includes operations in New Zealand. So New Zealand is a smaller slice of the overall Australia segment footprint. It doesn't make the situation less brutal for NZ staff and customers, just means this is not automatically a domino falls whole region goes situation. So, is Australia next? If you want the most evidence-based answer right now, there's no report saying EB Games Australia is proposing a shutdown. The reporting we have is specifically NZ, and there's one line in RNZ's reporting that actually points the other way. EB reportedly said there may be opportunities for NZ employees to relocate and work in the Australian EB Games operations. Companies don't usually say that if they're about to torch the Australian side next week. That said, Australia isn't immune to store pressure. EB Games has closed stores in Australia before. For example, multiple outlets reported that EB Games plan to close 19 unprofitable Australian stores around January 2020. So the idea that Australia could see more closures over time isn't some wild conspiracy. Some networks get pruned. But more closures and full national shutdown are two different planets. If you're watching this as an Aussie and you're trying to read the tea leaves, here are the kinds of signals that would matter if they start stacking up. First, a big acceleration in store closures. Not one or two stores in a dying shop, but a noticeable wave across multiple states. Second, trade-in value and pre-owned shrinking hard. Trade-ins are a core part of the model in GameStop's own description of how they operate, because it drives used inventory and price flexibility. If that pipeline dries up, the whole machine gets noisier to run. Third, distribution logistics tightening. NZ's proposal explicitly includes closing the NZ distribution centre. If you ever saw equivalent language for Australia, that would be a bigger uh-oh than a couple of store closures. And lastly, corporate filings showing strategic retreat. Right now, GameStop's filings still describe a global footprint with hundreds of stores in this region. That doesn't guarantee safety forever, but it's not the language of a company already exiting Australia. So yeah, Australia Next is possible in the abstract, but not supported by current reporting. So what this means for gamers in New Zealand right now, if you're in NZ, the practical takeaway is this is a proposal, but it's serious enough that you should keep a close eye on official updates. If you got pre-orders, store credits, gift cards, trade-in plans, anything tied up in the system, pay attention as the consultation period plays out and as EB communicates next steps. RNZ's reporting says staff were asked for feedback by January 12th, so the window for clarity might move quickly after that. And also, spare a thought for the workers. Whatever your opinions on the brand, it's real people getting hit by this. Now, I want to hear from you. If EB disappeared tomorrow, what would you actually miss? Midnight launches, trade-ins, pre-order bonuses, or do you reckon you'd barely notice because everything's digital now? Drop it in the comments, I'll be reading them because this one hits different depending on how you buy your games.